Hey guys, what's up? Good to talk to you guys. Haven't heard from you guys in a while. Making sure everything's okay. This is going to be a just kind of like a review of political parties from the last four classes since we've been distance learning. I know it's been 3, 4 weeks since I've seen any of you guys, and I know this sucks. I wish I was hanging out in class with you guys and having that conversation, but times like this, you got to do the best you can do with what you got, right? So, this is going to be just a short review of everything you guys learned about in the last four classes. And you can use this video to kind of clarify any questions that you have. Feel free to email me, contact me, post on Google Classroom, whatever you guys need, to help you answer the final unit assessment. You basically, this is it. Like, this is the last. This is the last assessment in this unit on political parties, and you have to demonstrate that you understand what political parties are, what they're doing, and if they're good or if they're bad for society, right? So let's take a look at what you guys learned about, right? The first class you should have learned, what a political party is, right? And it's a group of people who seek to control government, right, through the winning of elections and the holding of public office. That's just like a basic definition of what political parties are, right? you know Many hands make light work, right? One person can't just control government, right? You have to bond together, you have to group up with a bunch of similar like-minded people, organize yourself, and then set out a plan how you're going to win elections, right? It's a group of people with common interests and common principles, right? That's basically what a political party. If I'm going to go to a rally for Bernie Sanders, who is no longer in the race, um, the people that are going to be around me are going to be very similar in what they think about what the government should do, right? The people that win the government positions that are up for election, they control government. Their political party dictates what's going to happen next, right? Or what the government's next steps are going to do, or how they're going to control the direction of this country, right? A group of people that want to institute their principles on the rest of the United States, right? We called it a platform, right? That's their principles, right? What they believe government should do for its people, right? Obviously, if you're a liberal, you want the government to do more for the people. If you're a conservative, you believe more towards personal responsibility, right? And individuals, not government, should you know kind of dictate how our country is run, right? Your first video, they talked about linkage institutions, right? Like the media links the people to the government, right? Elections link people to government. Interest groups, which are very interesting, they link people to the government. But we're not going to really talk too much about those other three. The fourth linkage institution are political parties, right? They link people to government. You guys should have gotten the two political parties in the United States. The Republicans are symbolized by the elephant, and Democrats or liberals are symbolized by the donkey. Where do political parties receive their money? Right. I know it says two. It should say do. They get money, right? You can't organize, and you saw that video with Jennifer Lawrence, right? The amount of money that a politician has to raise every single day, 40 to 50,000, $60,000 a day just to run an election, right? That costs a lot of money to do those things. When President Trump, gets an ad out on YouTube or gets an ad out on television, that costs a lot of money, or Joe Biden or whoever, right? So where do they get their money? Because that's kind of important, right? They get it from party members. They get it from organizations which share their principles, like unions. Like, I'm a teacher. I'm part of a union. It's a group of teachers that fight for better pay for teachers or better working conditions, right? I belong to an organization, right? Corporations spend a lot of money. Corporations like Amazon. Amazon doesn't pay federal taxes. Like, they don't pay any money to the government, and that's because they have a huge influence on politicians, right? What do political parties do, right? They create policy, they create laws, right? Public policy are basically laws, right? How the public lives their day to day life, right? specific rules and laws that reflect the principles of the political party, right? They nominate people to run for government. We're in the middle of a primary right now, right? The Democratic Party is going to nominate Joe Biden because there's nobody else running against them for the Democratic ticket right now. They're going to nominate him to be the leader of our government, right? And then him and Trump are going to fight it out in November. So political parties choose candidates to represent them during elections, right? What else do they do? Political parties govern, right? Look at the state of Connecticut, right? If we have an executive or governor, right? We have a legislature, right? The state assembly, right? And we have a court system, right? Those are the three branches of government, right? They are controlled by Democrats right now. And so the Democratic Party in Connecticut controls what goes on. Taxes. If Ned Lamont thinks that it's a good idea to raise taxes on businesses or put tolls up or to tighten up on environmental restrictions, right? That's what happens, right? So govern, right? Run the government's day-to-day operations from the president to the court system to the Congress. Create a platform, right? I had you guys go and look at the platforms of the Democrats and Republican parties. A list of issues and principles where they stand on that issue, right? Issues are usually divided into two categories, right? Social issues, right? Those are the two things, right? Gay marriage, drug laws, obesity, education, immigration. Those are social issues, issues that have to do with society. Think of to be social means to interact with people, right? And then there are economic issues, right? Like should we raise the minimum wage? And what should we do about poverty? And does everybody get welfare checks and government regulation, trade, right? Those are all those economic issues, right? So that's how we usually divide major issues in our country, right? Social and economic. And a lot of times what you find is that people can be liberally social, but moderately economic, right? That's just how people look at those issues, right? Remember, when you guys were supposed to look up the platforms of the parties, right? If you got this question right, the Democrats want to create good paying jobs and they believe in economic fairness and ending inequality, right? They would be quick to say that Jeff Bezos, who makes billions of dollars or worth billions of dollars, should not be a billionaire, right? Because it's unequal that he's a billionaire and that wealth isn't more distributed to, say, people who live in poverty, right, or live paycheck to paycheck or on welfare, right? They believe in protecting voting rights. They believe in climate change, right? And they believe in healthcare for everybody, right? Everybody, like Obamacare, right? Everybody, if you don't have healthcare through your employer, you should be able to purchase healthcare at a very low cost. Republicans believe in government reform. They want less government, not more government, right? They would want to get rid of things like the energy department, which is part of our government, or maybe the Environmental Protection Agency, or maybe even the education department. They think that that's too much government, and that would be better handled by the state, not by federal government. They want to restore the American dream. They want to make great American families. They want American resurgence, right? Resurge means to harken back to a different time, right? Think about make America great again, right? Again, make America great again, right? As if it wasn't already great, we need to make it great like it was maybe in the 50s or the 60s, which that's not really kosher with a lot of groups of people, right? Rebirth of constitutional government, right? That's more of that small government is better than big government. Okay. So and then agriculture and environment. Now the interesting thing is, and something I hope that you guys picked up was that they both want what's best for America, right? What they think is best for America. Both of these platforms from these political parties is about making America great, right? They just have different avenues or different kind of like methods to get there, right? And then I told you guys to look on the issues, right? Or political ideologies, I'm sorry. And then we'll go to political issues, right? Liberals believe in government action to achieve equal opportunity. Like everybody should have a seat at the table, whether you're black or Hispanic or female or male or Jewish or Muslim, it doesn't matter. Everybody should have equal opportunity, right? And if it's not there, government's job is to make it more equal. Conservatives wouldn't believe that. Conservatives would think you should work harder in order to get a seat at the table, right? Liberals believe it's the duty of the government to alleviate social ills. That means like solve problems like welfare and food stamps and civil liberties and human rights, right? That's why they're so much more pro-gay marriage, right? They believe the role of the government should be to guarantee that no one is ever in need, right? They want to make sure that everybody has health care for all, right? Like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, right? They believe in what they call Medicare for all. That means that every person in this country gets health care and the government's going to pay for it, right? So no longer, like I work for the school system pays for my health care. Like imagine if nobody's businesses paid for their healthcare. Now the government runs your healthcare, right? A lot of people are fearful because government isn't always the most efficient entity, I guess you could say. Liberal policies generally emphasize the need for the government to solve problems, right? We kind of talked about that, right? And liberals are the Democratic Party. Now, conservatives believe in personal responsibility and limited government and free markets and individual liberty and traditional American values and a strong national defense. Those are usually the big things that conservatives believe in. Limited government means small government. Like they should not be interfering in people's lives very much, right? People should work harder if they want a seat at the table, right? Traditional American values, that's conservatives tend to be more religious than liberals do, and so they want those, values that you find in the Bible, right? Conservatives also believe the role of government should be to provide people the freedom necessary to pursue their own goals, right? Limited government, let people choose whether or not, for instance, down in the South during this COVID crisis that we're going through right now, a lot of those more conservative states, they didn't want to interfere on whether or not people should be able to go to the beaches, for instance. The governor of Georgia just allowed people, lifted the ban on beaches, even though, beaches is where COVID could probably, spread really quickly, right? Because everybody's on the beach. You guys have been to beaches before. You've seen it. Everybody's really close together. And that's kind of like how COVID spreads when people are close together. Well, people down in the South, like the governor of Georgia, he thinks that people should be able to choose whether or not they go, to the beach or not. Right? Why is it the government's job to tell people how to live their lives, right? It shouldn't be. People should be able to do it themselves. Conservative policies generally emphasize empowerment of the individual to solve problems, right? And that's the Republican Party. All right. So, like, if you did your, assignment, that conservatives are pro-gun. They want low taxes and they want a strong military. Liberals are more gun laws, right? They want to raise taxes because if you raise taxes, that means the government's getting more money and they can use that money to help society, like with welfare, healthcare, home heating oil, whatever. And liberals tend to want to take money from the military and try to solve the problems of society. How do you know which political party you belong to? Well, that depends on what you believe in socially, right? What do you believe in economically? Those two big things, right? What are the factors that influence your political party, right? Race is a determinant. Your gender, like religion, right? Education, age, where you live, your sexual orientation. Your parents have a great influence over you right now, right? Your teachers sometimes have influence over you, what they say, right? So, how you guys read that article on Pandora, your music choice sometimes, right? Determines where your political party comes from, right? If you listen to a great song like, I don't know, Bob Dylan's "The Times They Are Changing." If you listen to some of the songs from rap artists, right, about society and what it's like to live in the inner city, you're probably going to be a little more liberal, right? Because you think that government should solve those problems of the inner city life, right? If you listen to country music, which is kind of like more rootsy, traditional, traditional American values about America and all these other things, you might be a little more conservative, right? And that's what they were kind of saying with that Pandora article. So, and then the final thing was, what's wrong with political parties, right? You see what's wrong. Congress is an all-time low approval rating, right? I mean, the president's probably around 45%, but members of Congress are like in the 20s as far as their approval rating, right? And congressional races are expensive. And people feel left out of the political process. I mean, that's one of the big reasons why Trump won in 2016, because people feel like government is failing them. And the special interest groups are special interest group priorities are given preference over average ordinary Americans. So, a special interest group is a group that is very powerful, that has some sort of specific niche like interest, like the gun industry is a special interest group. The energy industry is a special interest group, like oil companies, right? Things like Mothers Against Drunk Driving is an interest group, right? But they're not nearly as powerful as, say, the National Rifle Association, right? The NRA, you've probably heard of. That's an interest group that wants to make it more accessible for people to own a gun, right? They would think everybody should be able to own whatever kind of gun they want to own. But those groups are getting priority over average ordinary Americans, right? And I don't care what it is, if it's a liberal or conservative interest group, they still are powerful. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of they have their hands in a lot of things in government, and usually their priorities are given preference over like you and I's preferences, right? Or us as average ordinary Americans, right? So then they went over that video, and then they talked about, like, how do we fix political parties? How do we fix the political system? It's not even a liberal or conservative issue. This is, when they were watching that video, you should have gotten that Republicans and Democrats, many of them, all agreed that this is the way to fix the political system, political parties. Like, stop political bribery. You guys know bribery is, somebody does something for somebody else in exchange, they get something, right? So make it illegal for politicians to take money from these people called lobbyists. A lobbyist is a person who works for a special interest group, right? So you have a group like the NRA, and the NRA hires people called lobbyists to go to Washington and pass laws, or try to lobby. That's a real word. Lobby government officials to make laws that benefit them, right? Lobbyists and special interests routinely offer public officials high-paying lobby jobs, right? So a lot of times what happens is, if you work for a political party and you work in government for, 4 election cycles, maybe 8 years if you're in the House of Representatives, right? When you're done working for government, these special interest groups will pay you massive amounts of money to come work for them afterwards. Prevent politicians from fundraising during working hours. Like, isn't it kind of crazy that you would, like, a representative, when they should be writing laws or doing stuff for the American people or holding a town hall meeting, instead of connecting with the American people, the people that they represent, they're out fundraising, right? Lots of money, tons of money involved in politics, right? And that goes to number 2, like ending, where's all this money coming from, right? If I don't know where my politician is getting money from, he might be influenced greatly by a special interest group, right? So they want to immediately disclose political money online. Like, let me know where you're getting your money. Joe Courtney is our representative right here in Connecticut, right? Well, he's yours, not mine. But, where does he get his money from? If he gets his money from sources that are maybe I don't like, maybe organizations that I don't like, maybe I won't vote for him in the next election, right? And stop people who are giving this money, donors, they call them, from hiding behind secret money groups. Like, everything is secret, everything's in the dark. We don't know where our politicians are getting their money from, and they still pass laws that make it harder and harder for average Americans to know. Fix our election cycle, like make voting registration automatic, right? So that I don't have to keep filling out a piece of paper, right? What about voting at home? Like, that's huge right now. Talking about that, President Trump was just talking about that the other day. He doesn't like voting at home, right? What if we did it like that? What if everybody got a ballot at home? Like some states, like Colorado and I think Oregon and Washington, that's how they run their election cycle. Right now, we have not many people vote in our country compared to, say, Australia, where it's mandatory that you vote, right? Reasonable term limits. Like if a politician serves 2 term limits, that's enough. They shouldn't be their career, right? And change how elections are funded. Like, where is this money for elections coming from? Millions and millions, maybe billions of dollars to run these elections. Where's it coming from? And is it from an organization that I might not approve of, right? And then enforce the rules, like enforce anti-corruption. Corruption is one of the things that people, the average ordinary American, hates the most about our government is that they're corrupt, and we need to fix those laws. All right, I hope that's enough for you guys. You guys, let me know whatever you guys need. If you guys have a problem with any of the stuff going on, you need help with any of the questions or whatever, let me know. Okay. Feel free. You guys got the weekend. You got until Tuesday.